Hey, what's up, everybody? You know what this is. It's another episode of Charlie Brown Politics, and I am, of course, Charlie Brown, the host of the show. Our topic today is going to be Dr. Cornel West. He went on, he gave an interview to Truth Dig, the news outlet. You may have heard of this outlet. Chris Hedges used to work there, but I believe he was fired or he quit because of a change in leadership in the news organization. I don't know the specific details on that. Nonetheless, Dr. Cornel West gave a phone interview, and some subjects and topics that came up in this said interview might be of interest to you. Topics like Dr. Cornel West is hinting that he will drop out of the race if there is a repeat of 2020 of Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. And I'm guessing he's going to give that hint because of his fear of Donald Trump's so called fascism. And a lot more topics get brought up in this interview. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, shall we? This is from Truth Dig, November 2nd, 2023. What does one do when both options are catastrophic? An interview with Cornel West. And this is who it's by. Okay, author, academic, and public intellectual Dr. Cornel West has long been a fiery fixture in America's political discourse, proselytizing, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that word, and pronouncing in biblical prophetic tradition. The Tulsa-born West has written numerous books, notably 2005's Democracy Matters, a best-selling clarion call to revitalize America's democracy. He describes himself a number of ways: a revolutionary Christian, a radical Democrat, internationalist, democratic socialist, but his message, philosophy, and mode of delivery never wavers. Rather, he is addressing a group of university students, national TV audiences, or presidential campaign rallies for independent and Democratic candidates. He has stumped for Bill Bradley, Ralph Nader, Barack Obama, and Bernie Sanders. West, forceful advocacy for economic democracy, social justice, and restraint in foreign policy, has provided sharp counterpoints to the centrism that has defined the Democratic Party since his rise as a national figure in the 1990s. So right off the bat, it has some red flags that have been a part of Cornel West's political career or advocacy, such as stumping for people like Bill Bradley, Barack Obama, and Bernie Sanders. And we have all seen how that turned out. Bill Bradley, for a refresher, was one of the first neoliberals to ever exist. Barack Obama, what can I say? He took 2 wars to 7. He made the Bush tax cuts permanent. He didn't prosecute one person of Wall Street. And you might be saying, but Charlie, Cornel West actually criticized Barack Obama for 4 years after he voted for him in 2008. And you are correct, but the one thing that needs to be pointed out there is he went and voted for Barack Obama again in 2012. And now Bernie Sanders has been showing us time and time again that he never cared for the working class and poor people. He never wanted to fight. Like he said, he never wanted to start a revolution. So these are just, pieces of evidence that adds up to at least for us to question Cornell's judgment of character. So, this is the first part of the article that I wanted to show. Let's move on. West spoke with Truth Dig by phone in Los Angeles on October 27th. The following transcript has been lightly edited for length and clarity. All right, this is a question that they asked him. You have served as honorary chair of Democratic Socialist of America. Do you favor a specific form of socialism? I'm basically a radical Democrat. A radical Democrat believes there ought to be a robust public life, robust public oversight in the most important institutions. All right, so there's more to his answer, but this is pretty much the only part of his answer that I wanted to highlight. and he's basically saying he's a radical Democrat. Uh, I don't know. That's another red flag for me. We're supposed to be looking for a revolutionary energy, something that is totally outside of the duopoly. And when you claim that you're a radical Democrat, that's still like within the system. It's not that revolutionary change that I definitely feel that this country needs. And I think that Cornel West has been saying this country needs, but how are you going to do that through an anti-revolutionary party? So that's another red flag that I wanted to point out in this article. Okay, this is another question they asked him. You touched on emissions. What specific West administration policies would tackle the climate crisis? We have to make it a priority, brother. We've got to shift from an extractive economy to a regenerative one. We cannot be tied to coal, to oil. We cannot treat nature as a gift. We cannot, in the language of the great Martin Buber, squeeze it all. Squeeze from it all we can for us. We've got to treat nature as a vow, which means we're looking for solar. We're looking for forms of energy that are renewable and regenerative rather than extractive. People have talked about the new Green Deal, and I think that's a very important first step. We've got to go even further than that. Our precious young people, the younger generations, are part of a in part responding to a sense of doom, a profound anxiety about whether there's going to be a livable planet in the next 50 years with the current levels of depression and drug overdose. So let me go back to this part. So he's talking about the Green New Deal, and he thinks that it's a very important first step. Okay, this is another red flag for me, and another flag or question of judgment on Cornell. The Green New Deal, if you do not know, has been co-opted by our elites, by the WEF, and is going to be a way to extract more money from us, more rights, more power, and it's just adding again to the questionable, not only people that Cornell has supported in the day, but Cornell's ability to not see what's really going on with some of these movements and how they have been co-opted. So, all right, so let's just move on. This is going to be the next question they asked him. Speaking of which, how would a West administration approach the Ukraine-Russian war? This is West's response. You always begin with the human beings who are being crushed. This is a starting point, no matter what. Then you tell the truth about the larger structures and institutions that brought the moment in which we find ourselves. NATO has been expanding since the 90s. After the U.S. promised Russia it would not expand 1 inch. The U.S. lied. It didn't tell the truth. NATO continued to expand and expand until it got to the border of Russia, to the border of the Russian Federation. Putin, an authoritarian gangster in so many ways, and Russia felt pushed against the wall with NATO. So let's pause for just 1 second there. Cornell does get this situation more than most politicians. I'll give him that. But he still has to throw in like this virtue signal answer that everybody seems to have to throw out there to be able to talk about this subject. And that virtue signal is calling Putin a gangster. Okay. I don't know why everybody has to go ahead and just call him a gangster. It's another red flag for me. America is the gangster. America is the authoritarian state. America is the one with 800 military bases around the world. America is the one that broke the promise that we wouldn't move NATO an inch further. So no, I'm not going to call Putin a gangster for what's been going on in Ukraine. There is so much more to the story. The war did not start when Putin invaded in Ukraine. It started much before that. Go listen to the history on it. Go read about the 2014 coup or listen to Victoria Nuland give that leaked phone call where she's talking about which candidates would be good for the Ukrainian government. Okay? There's plenty of evidence out there that there's a lot more to this. So, like I said, Cornel gets it more than most people, but he still has to throw out that virtue signaling aspect of it, of calling Putin a gangster. So let's move on. So they're going to ask him another question. This one's going to be about Harlan Crow. Moving back to domestic issues, what is your relationship with Harlan Crow? And what do you make of his controversial relationship with Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas? I met Harlan Crow in a dialogue in Dallas, actually. He's given some wonderful contributions to a black school named St. Philip's School and Community Center in South Dallas, run by Dr. Terry Flowers. We have always had debates and so forth and so on. He's very close to Clarence, a good friend of his, no doubt. Brother Robbie George McCormick, professor of jurisprudence at Princeton University, is also a very good friend of his. He's been a supporter of conservative institutions like the American Enterprise Institute and various programs and universities. He's got a collection of paraphernalia of different tyrants, of Stalin, Mao, the Romanian tyrant, Nikolai, I can't say that last name, Portugal's, Antonio de Oliveira. Sorry, I messed that up as well. I can't say. Salazar. Hitler's part of that as well. Then he's got another room for his heroes, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and so forth. He's a billionaire, a very, very rich brother. There's no doubt about that. He's got a lovely family. Okay. So that is just going over another thing that a lot of people did not like, that Cornel West accepted this money from this Harlan Crow who has had a shady past, who has given money to people that us on the left would not support, and of course he's a billionaire, so yeah, a lot of people had some issues with that, so Cornel did the right thing and gave the money back, but he probably should have done it a lot sooner and should have done it before everyone bitched at him for it. So here is going to be the final question, and the question that everybody is waiting on, I believe. Okay, here it is. If it comes down to a very close election between Biden and Trump or another MAGA Republican, would you drop out of the race and throw your support behind the Democratic candidate to ensure a fascist candidate doesn't win the White House? And here it is. That's a $64,000 question, brother. I can only answer it in real time. At the moment, I plan to go all the way through. There's a good chance that neither Trump or Biden will be the candidates. You have a Gavin Newsom and somebody else among the Republican slate that will surface with Trump on his way to jail. But whoever the candidates are, we have to make that kind of decision in real time. At the moment, I plan to go all the way because I want to keep alive the legacy and tradition of folk who are connected about the plight of hardworking people that Frantz Fanon called the wretched of the earth. You're right about the fascism of Trump, the fascism of the Republican Party, but if you're talking about the barbaric genocidal attacks on Gaza supported by Biden, you're talking about the escalation of war in Eastern Europe and the Middle East heading towards World War III. That's a very tough call because both options are catastrophic. What does one do when both options are catastrophic? So he doesn't blatantly sit there and say that, no, I'm gonna drop out and support the Democratic Party if it becomes Trump and Biden. He kind of gives this wishy-washy answer of saying like, well, right now it looks like Trump and Biden might not be the nominees. Okay, so right now I'm going all the way. But what happens when Trump and Biden are both sealed in as the nominee for the Republican and the Democratic Party? he kind of gave, the language he used kind of set himself up to say, to give himself some wiggle room. Um, and what else can I say? He's pretty much saying yes to this question that if the two uh, if the two previous candidates, Trump and Biden, go head to head, that he would have to probably support the Democratic Party because of the fascism from the Republicans. Now, this is just, what can we say about this? It's disappointing, yes, um, but it's not surprising. Lots of us on the left, like Kit from Hardlands Media, has been, calling out this prediction for, I want to say, at least 2 or 3 weeks, at least since Peter Dow joined the Cornel West campaign. And so I don't want to do this to necessarily crap on Cornel personally at all. I think he is genuinely a decent person, but he's obviously had a lack of uh, uh, judgment when it comes to people's characters, when it comes to certain issues throughout the years, from Bill Bradley to supporting Obama to supporting Joe Biden in 2020. And look at all the crappy decisions he's made throughout his campaign run so far, from hiring Peter Dow to dropping out of the Green Party. Um, he's not on one state ballot as far as I know. So it just goes to show that we cannot be giving our money, our time, and our support to these candidates. I know it sucks. Okay, I was excited about RFK. That became very disappointing. I was excited about Cornel West. That became very disappointing. And so just time and time again, it gets proven to me that our answer will not be from the top down. Some politician's not going to come and save us, guys. It's gonna be me and you saving each other. It's gonna be mutual aid, local farms. Stop giving your money to these candidates, guys. We don't have a lot of money to give. Keep it for yourself. Save it for when your cat gets sick, when your car breaks down, for when you need that next big expense to come up. If you got to give it away, go give it to a homeless person. Go give it to mutual aid. Give it to Lahaina. But for God's sakes, do not give it to these fucking politicians anymore. How many times are we going to get the football yanked out from underneath us? Lucy's just going to keep on yanking that fucking football out from under us until one day we say, fuck that, Lucy. I'm going to kick you in the face. So hashtag kick Lucy. And I'm done giving any more support and money to these politicians. With that being said, guys, let's wrap this video up. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts on Cornel, the campaign, or anybody else? Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next episode of Charlie Brown Politics. Later.